Carolina. A staunch fiscal conservative who, like Dr. Ron Paul, walks the walk on behalf of the taxpayer. Tom is here tonight to make an endorsement in the Palmetto State's pivotal First to the South presidential primary. Ladies and gentlemen, a principled leader making a principled choice for taxpayers everywhere, Tom Davis.
I'm just absolutely thrilled to be here today. Dr. Paul is somebody that I've watched for the past 26 years, and I've always admired the principled stands that he takes in Congress, often on the side of 400 some odd to one vote. Many times the other person on the side of the vote with him, Mark Sanford, casting the vote, trying to hold the line for liberty, hold the line on spending. So I got inducted into Dr. Paul very early. I want to call attention to my wife and my daughters that are here this evening. I'm not sure exactly where they are, but if they please stand up, turn around and wave to these guys. These are the guys that I'm here to see. Today is about Tom Davis. It's not even about Ron Paul. It's about the ideas that he stands for. It's about the ideas that our Constitution and our Declaration of Independence stand for. It's about this notion that government stands to secure the blessings of liberty. Government stands for the proposition that we're going to protect freedom, we're going to protect life, liberty, and allow the pursuit of happiness, and we're not going to have government solve all our problems. We're not going to turn over all the responsibilities to government. We're not going to turn over our dollars to government. And it's a tragedy that in the year 2012 we had to say something like that as if it were a revelation.
That's right.
As if we don't know in our DNA that that's who we are as Americans. That our country was founded upon these unique principles. Not aristocracies, not divine rule of kings. The power comes from the people, and it gives power to the government, and that's all matters. One of the nice things about being in South Carolina every 4 years is you get to meet candidates firsthand. And I've had that chance. I've had the chance to have dinner with Governor Huntsman. He's a fine man. I've had the chance to introduce Newt Gingrich and Rick Perry, Rick Santorum, Michelle Bachmann, all these individuals, my constituents. And at the end of the day, when I sat down, I realized there are a lot of good people running for this race, but there's only one person speaking to what I believe is the core problem in our country today. You can talk a lot about national defense, you can talk a lot about other problems, but the biggest threat to our liberty comes from debt. James Madison, John Adams, they all recognize that. You can have tyranny either by the sword or through debt. And with $15 trillion of debt, we are having tyranny through bankruptcy in this country, and there is only one candidate that is talking about this problem to the degree, at the scale, and with the scope that it needs to be talked about. You can't nibble around the edges anymore. We can't just go ahead and have good enough. We can't go ahead and have incremental steps. Incremental steps have grown our deficit to now over $2 trillion a year. It's grown our national debt to over $15 trillion a year. We need drastic, radical return to the principles this country was founded upon. And if you look at Dr. Paul, and if you look at the lonely battle that he's fought up there in Washington, D.C., and if you look at the courage that he has shown, and if you looked at the withstanding of the pressure that I know he's under, because I feel it in Colombia. I feel it in Colombia all the time. Corporations are out there with their lobbyists, and they want handouts, they want subsidies, they want loopholes, they want grants, they want special treatment, they want crony capitalism, and it is rotting out our republic from the very core. That's what's happening in South Carolina. South Carolina. In 1998, we gave away $34 million in special grants and subsidies to corporations. Last year was over $1 billion we gave away to corporations. And during that time that we have seen state welfare increase to corporations, our per capita income has plummeted. There is a direct correlation to the degree of freedom society has and its degree of prosperity. And we have been on the slide in South Carolina. We have been on the slide in the United States of America. I want to make South Carolina the freest state in the nation, and I want the United States to be the freest country in the world. Through that, when we come to the thing that makes this nation unique. You know about the Freedom Index that's been sliding. We know about the taxes that are rising higher and higher, and the corporate loopholes, the Solyndra scandals. And guess what? It's not just the Democrats, guys. It's the Republicans that have defeated the 12 up there, too. I love the idea of phasing out this income tax code that is about that tall and is riddled with exceptions and corporate favors. You have to phase it out. Dr. Paul will do that. That's a huge reason why I'm supporting him for President of the United States. Controlling spending, we need radical surgery, not an aspirin. We need to go ahead and eliminate energy, HUD, commerce, interior, education. They are not doing anything in Washington, D.C. I was talking to Dr. Paul backstage there, and I shared with him that in the past 4 or 5 years, I've developed an obsession with the Austrian School of Economics, with Mises, with Hayek. With Milton Friedman, he's okay too. We need to get back to the free market. We need to get back where the way you get ahead in this country is by having an idea, taking your money, working hard, and then reaping the benefits of your labor. Not by hiring a lobbyist and getting yourself a loophole. That is not America. That's not a gentleman right there just wrote up a book called End the Fed. That is something that and talking about the Federal Reserve, and talking about quantitative easing, and talking about monetary policy, and talking about how it devalues our dollar, and talking about how it's Keynesian pumping into our economy. He has brought to the forefront ideas that 5 or 6 years ago people had no idea what you were talking about. Now, everybody in this field talking about it. We have Dr. Ron Paul to thank for that. I've only been in politics. I've only been a senator for 3 years. Before that, I was a chief of staff for a governor. The highest honor I have ever had in public life is this evening. A man that I've looked at and admired for a tremendously long time, whose books I've read, whose video clips I've watched avidly as my daughter watches Bleed. A man that I admire, the champion of the Constitution, the defender of free markets, and the next president of the United States.
I would like to introduce 2 family members that I have with me, my wife Carol and one granddaughter, Lisa. Stand up. And thank you for coming out. It's always encouraging. People sometimes tell you what, when you come out and support this cause that we have and support the free market and individual liberty and a sensible foreign policy, believe me, you give me a lot of encouragement, and thank you very much. I don't know if you've noticed, you probably have, campaign's been going pretty well. Did well in Iowa, did well in New Hampshire, and we're going to do well next Saturday, right? And when we do well, it will send a powerful message. And the message is the message of liberty, that great substance that made America so great. And they are going to hear that loud and clear. About these issues for a long time, and when I started out in the 1970s, it was mainly on a lark, because I had been introduced to sound economic theories by the Austrian school, and yet I thought we were going in absolutely the wrong direction when we severed the last tie to sound money, realizing that that was the last link or restraint on the monetary authorities to print money at will for the politicians who I knew would spend too much money, and they did. And that is the reason we have to reverse this. We have to have a clear understanding what the role of government ought to be, and we ought to have a clear understanding of economic policy and a clear understanding of why we have to rein in the Federal Reserve System. To bail out the whole world, and we can't do it, so it will come to an end. But would speed up the process to monetary reform and returning to constitutional money, we'd just find out what the Fed's been doing, a full and clear audit of everything the Fed has done. So we have our plate full, because what we're trying to do is reverse not this administration. This administration has been pretty bad. But I'll tell you what, the last 30 or 40 or 50 years hasn't been too good either. It's been on a slide. So we have to put the blame where it is. And really, I truly believe that ideas have consequences. And bad ideas have bad consequences. And we've been dealing with bad ideas for a long time, especially back to at least in the 1930s, and we haven't done well, and it has brought on us this absolute bankruptcy of this country that has engulfed the world, and it's not going to go away. The only question is what are we going to do about it, how are we going to resolve it, and what are we going to replace it with? We have a pretty good understanding of what we should replace it with, because we don't have to invent it. It's not brand new. It's a relatively new idea when it comes to history, because freedom is a new idea. Well, throughout the 6,000 years of recorded history, the people in those times rarely had true freedom. And we as a nation had probably one of the best systems, the freest system, and the most prosperous system, and the largest middle class, which is the consequence of having freedom. But that's not the case anymore. Our middle class is shrinking. Our wealth is shrinking. What we have on the surface is debt. Everything we have, if we had to pay all the bills, we'd all be broke. You know, the country's broke. We can't pay off all the debt. So we now have to make a decision on how we're going to do this. So we don't have to invent something new. It seems like it wouldn't be that complicated to sending only people to Washington who know, understand the Constitution, and will obey the Constitution.